In the previous lecture, we introduced the course and concluded with a dramatized discussion of Euthyphro. Today's lecture will focus on why Plato is so significant, drawing from key primary sources like the Apology, Phaedo, Republic, and Timaeus. In addition, we'll touch on insights from St. Augustine's Confessions, translated by Henry Chadwick, and Alfred North Whitehead's Process and Reality. To truly get the most out of this lecture, and the course as a whole, I strongly recommend that you first read or watch the Apology, Phaedo, Republic, and Timaeus. These primary texts, along with Confessions and Process and Reality, will deepen your understanding of Plato's importance beyond what I can express here. You may have noticed that I've repeated this point, and that's intentional. This foundational knowledge will enrich your experience and allow a deeper engagement with Plato's philosophy. That said, I could certainly take a prescriptive approach and dive into every nuance of Plato's work, but the goal here is to help you discover something new and profound in the dialogues yourself. Reading these texts and Confessions and Process and Reality will guide you toward that discovery. I realize, however, that for many, this is a significant time commitment, around 45 to 65 hours of reading. If you do manage to tackle it, fantastic. There's nothing quite like engaging directly with the sources. But don't worry if you can't. We'll be revisiting and rereading many of Plato's dialogues throughout the course, and the accompanying book, Plato Reimagined, offers commentary on all but the spurious works of Plato. It also includes extensive endnotes, which I encourage you to explore for further insights. For those advanced learners, you'll have access to my calendar, allowing you to meet with me once a month to discuss your thoughts on Plato, this course, or how to apply his philosophy in everyday life. Additionally, you'll gain access to several powerful tools that will supercharge your learning. For example, I'll show you how to use the Gadfly app, powered by Text Expander, to instantly recall the structure of your own understanding of philosophy, how to apply the PASF filter to uncover cultural blind spots, and how to integrate ChatGPT into your research and creative projects. You'll even learn how to use AI to create videos like the one you're watching now. If you choose to sign up for the ideal plan on PlankSip, you'll be maximizing your learning experience here at the PlankSip Academy. With that, let's move on to today's lecture. Lecture 02, Why is Plato Important? Good day, everyone. Today we will explore the monumental significance of Plato's work in shaping not only the history of philosophy, but the broader spectrum of Western thought and culture. Plato's philosophical contributions extend far beyond the boundaries of academia, permeating politics, science, ethics, art, and even modern social structures. Through the vivid dialogues of Socratic discourse, Plato presented timeless questions and a powerful intellectual framework to address the most fundamental questions about reality, the nature of knowledge, and the pursuit of a virtuous life. Plato's ideas are not just relics of the past. They are living, breathing traditions that continue to shape human inquiry and understanding. 1. Plato and the birth of Western philosophy. Plato's works represent a pivotal moment in the development of Western philosophy. His writings establish an intellectual bridge between the pre-Socratic thinkers, such as Heraclitus, Pythagoras, and Parmenides, and the work of his most famous student, Aristotle. It is through Plato's dialogues that the figure of Socrates is immortalized. The Socratic method of questioning, a hallmark of Plato's dialogues, is central to the way Western philosophy has developed over the last 2 millennia. One of the most significant contributions Plato made was preserving Socrates' thought in writing, as Socrates himself left no written works. In Apology, for instance, Plato presents Socrates defending himself before the Athenian court, where he famously declares, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Apology 38a, why, cite. This concept that philosophy is essential to living a fully examined and meaningful life has been echoed by philosophers from Descartes to Nietzsche, making Plato's work a foundational text in both ethics and epistemology. 2. The theory of forms, a new metaphysical foundation. Plato's theory of forms, or ideas, is one of the most influential metaphysical doctrines in Western philosophy. It posits that the reality we perceive with our senses is only a shadow of a higher, non-material reality. In Phaedo, Plato offers the analogy of the sun, stating that the forms are as distinct from the physical world as the sun is from the shadows cast by objects in its light. Phaedo 74a, 76e. Cite. For Plato, These abstract forms or ideas are the true reality, while the material world is an imperfect reflection. Why is this important? Plato's theory provided the intellectual foundation for abstract thinking that influenced not only metaphysics, but also logic, mathematics, and even theology. His notion of a higher, non-material realm gave rise to ideas about universals, a concept that would be crucial in the work of later philosophers, including Aristotle, Aquinas, and even Kant. Forms are not merely theoretical abstractions. For Plato, they are the true essence of everything. The forms of goodness, justice, and beauty, for instance, represent perfect versions of these concepts, which the material world can only imperfectly approximate. This line of thinking profoundly influenced Western thought about ethics, aesthetics, and morality. In his dialogue Republic, Plato insists that the form of the good is the highest of all forms, and it is this good that philosophers must strive to understand above all else. Republic 508e, 509b. Cite. 3. Epistemology and the allegory of the cave. The pursuit of knowledge is a central theme in Plato's philosophy. In his famous allegory of the cave, presented in the Republic, Republic 514a, 520a, cite. Plato describes prisoners who are chained in a cave, able to see only the shadows cast on the wall in front of them. The prisoners mistake these shadows for reality, never realizing that the true forms of the objects exist outside the cave, illuminated by the light of the sun. This allegory serves as a metaphor for human ignorance and the philosopher's journey toward enlightenment. The allegory is one of the most enduring images in Western thought, symbolizing the human struggle to attain wisdom and understanding. For Plato, the physical world of sensory experience is akin to the shadows on the wall, while true knowledge lies in the apprehension of the forms, particularly the form of the good. The process of philosophical inquiry, as represented by the ascent from the cave into the light, is central to Plato's epistemology. This allegory is also deeply ethical in nature. Plato suggests that the philosopher, once they have grasped the truth, has a moral obligation to return to the cave and guide others toward enlightenment. This leads directly into Plato's notion of the philosopher king, the ruler who, having seen the light of the good, is best suited to govern. The idea of a philosopher king, though perhaps idealistic, highlights Plato's conviction that knowledge and virtue are intimately connected. Governance without wisdom, Plato warns, can lead to tyranny and injustice. 4. Plato's influence on ethics and politics, the Republic and beyond. Plato's dialogue Republic is arguably one of his most ambitious and comprehensive works. It delves into issues of justice, governance, and the nature of the ideal society. Central to the Republic is Plato's vision of justice as a harmonious ordering of society in which every individual does the work for which they are best suited. Plato defines justice as doing one's own work and not meddling with what is not one's own. Republic 433a. Cite. This is the foundation for his famous tripartite division of the soul, which corresponds to the three classes of society: the rulers, reason; the guardians, spirit; and the producers, appetite. This model of justice has resonated throughout the centuries, influencing thinkers like Augustine, Hobbes, and even Marx. While Plato's vision of the ideal state may seem utopian, his questions about the relationship between justice, power, and society remain relevant. The Republic provides one of the earliest and most profound explorations of the tension between the needs of the individual and the needs of the state. Moreover, Plato's discussions of governance in Republic gave rise to the notion that those who govern must not only be knowledgeable, but also virtuous. This concept has had a lasting influence on political thought, from the Roman philosopher Cicero to the framers of the U.S. Constitution, who sought to create a system where power was balanced by checks, wisdom, and ethical responsibility. 5. Plato and the foundations of Western science. Although Plato is often seen as a philosopher concerned with abstract metaphysical and ethical questions, his work also laid the foundation for the development of Western science. Plato's emphasis on reason, logic, and the idea of an orderly, intelligible universe helped shape the intellectual environment in which science could flourish. In Timaeus, Plato offers a cosmological account of the universe, arguing that the cosmos is an ordered and harmonious whole, created by a divine craftsman or demiurge, Timaeus 29d 30b. Cite. This vision of a rational, ordered universe would profoundly influence later thinkers, especially in the Renaissance, who sought to reconcile scientific inquiry with Platonic philosophy. Galileo and Descartes, for example, were deeply influenced by Platonic ideas, and the notion of a rational, mathematical universe became a cornerstone of modern science. Plato's work also provided the intellectual framework for the later development of formal logic, particularly through his student Aristotle. While Plato was more concerned with the metaphysical aspects of reality, Aristotle would take these ideas and apply them to the study of biology, physics, and logic. Nevertheless, Plato's insistence on the importance of abstract reasoning laid the groundwork for the scientific method as we know it today. 6. Plato's influence on Christianity and Western religion. Plato's influence is not confined to philosophy and science. His metaphysical and ethical ideas had a significant impact on early Christian thought, shaping theological debates for centuries. The dualism that Plato presents in works like Phaedo, the separation between the physical world and the world of forms, resonated deeply with early Christian thinkers, particularly with regard to the soul and the afterlife. St. Augustine, one of the most important figures in Christian theology, was profoundly influenced by Plato's work. In his Confessions, Augustine describes how reading Plato helped him to understand Christian doctrine about the immaterial nature of God and the soul. Augustine's vision of the city of God was inspired by Platonic ideals, particularly the distinction between the imperfect material world and a higher spiritual reality. For Augustine, the teachings of Plato provided an intellectual framework for understanding Christian concepts of sin, redemption, and the afterlife. Sight. This Platonic influence extends into medieval scholasticism, where thinkers like Thomas Aquinas sought to harmonize Christian theology with Platonic and Aristotelian philosophy. The Platonic vision of a higher immaterial reality provided a foundation for discussions about the nature of God, the immortality of the soul, and the relationship between faith and reason. Even today, Platonic themes can be found in various forms of Christian mysticism and philosophical theology. 7. The legacy of Plato in modern philosophy. Plato's influence did not end with the decline of classical antiquity or the rise of Christianity. His ideas continued to shape the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and even contemporary philosophy. During the Renaissance, Plato's works experienced a revival, particularly through the efforts of scholars like Marsilio Ficino, who translated his works into Latin and sought to integrate Platonic philosophy with Christian doctrine. Plato's emphasis on abstract reasoning and the search for higher truths resonated deeply with Renaissance humanists, who saw in his works a model for intellectual and moral development. The rediscovery of Platonic philosophy helped to shape the intellectual environment of the Renaissance, influencing artists, scientists, and thinkers such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Giordano Bruno. Even in the modern era, Plato's influence remains pervasive. His work continues to inform discussions about justice, ethics, and the nature of knowledge. Philosophers like Immanuel Kant, G.W.F. Hegel, and Alfred North Whitehead have all grappled with Platonic themes in their work. Whitehead famously remarked that the safest general characterization of the European philosophical tradition is that it consists of a series of footnotes to Plato. Cite. This is no exaggeration. Plato's questions about the nature of reality, the role of reason, and the pursuit of the good life continue to resonate in contemporary philosophy. 8. Plato's relevance in contemporary thought. Why, then, should we study Plato today? In an era dominated by scientific and technological advancements, it might seem that Plato's abstract metaphysical inquiries are outdated. Yet Plato's enduring relevance lies in his ability to ask questions that are fundamental to the human experience. What is justice? What is truth? What is the purpose of life? These questions do not become obsolete because they are not tied to any specific historical context or scientific theory. Rather, they are timeless inquiries that continue to challenge and inspire us. Plato also teaches us the value of critical thinking. Through the Socratic method, he shows that philosophy is not about finding easy answers, but about asking the right questions. In a world filled with information, where the lines between truth and falsehood are increasingly blurred, the ability to think critically and question assumptions is more important than ever. Moreover, Plato's work offers a vision of a world in which reason and virtue are the guiding principles. In a time of political and social upheaval, Plato's commitment to justice and the pursuit of the common good provides a powerful counterpoint to the cynicism and self-interest that often dominate public discourse. By studying Plato, we are not merely engaging with the past. We are participating in a living tradition that continues to shape the way we think about the world and our place in it.